So starting with a comfortable stance. The basic stance in Qigong is called Wuji. Wuji translates badly, so we'll just go with it's called Wuji. Wuji is an idea of standing effortlessly, standing without any force. Everything is relaxed, body and mind relaxed. So one of the things that happens as we go through the practice is that our Wuji stance continues to develop. We continue to find ways to relax more deeply, to quieten the mind more completely. So there's something very powerful about taking a moment just to stand, to really relax, really release the body, and allow the mind just to be very present, fully aware of all of the things that are around you, but not thinking about them, just knowing they're there. Noticing what you can hear, noticing what you can smell, but doing nothing about it. This is Wuji. So we'll come back to Wuji at various points during the practice and see how it is after we've done certain movements. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to allow the body to relax. So we'll work through from the top of the neck all the way down the spine and down through the legs. So the first movement is softening the neck. Doesn't matter how. Just take the time to open up the space between the vertebrae. Create some space so that things can flow a little bit more easily. Okay, and then let the head come back to a central position. Take a moment, see how that feels. Then we'll draw the awareness down into the mid-spine, and we'll start this movement by drawing the shoulder blades together, then releasing the shoulder blades apart. Squeeze together, release apart. Squeeze together, release apart. Okay, making the movement a little bit more complex, lifting the shoulder blades up at the front, releasing them down at the back, rolling the shoulders. The in-breath rising at the front, the out-breath releasing at the back. Taking a little while just to roll the shoulders. Okay, having rolled the shoulders, we can then start to get the elbows involved. So lifting the elbows up at the front on the in-breath, releasing them at the sides on the out-breath. A few times just the elbows, lifting, opening, releasing. Again, lifting on the in-breath, opening, releasing. Let the movement come down into the wrists now, lifting elbows, lifting wrists, opening to the sides, releasing. Elbows, wrists, open, release. Breathing in, releasing. In your own time, following your breath, serving no purpose other than to relax. Couple more times round. And the next time the hands get to the top, allow them to pause at the top. And then the out breath, we change direction, sink down through the body. Open out to the sides and breathe in, hands rising up above. Draw chi down, relaxing down. A few times around in this direction. And then the next time the hands come down in front of lower dantian, allow them to pause in front of lower dantian. Take a few breaths here. Then relax the hands to the sides, back to this Wuji stance. Take a few moments to simply stand, quiet and aware, effortless. Okay, we'll come into another movement and we're going to mobilize lumbar spine. So keeping the hips fairly steady, turn to the left, turn to the right. And soften the movement so that we're just twisting at the waist. The hands coming round and tapping, probably onto the kidneys, but it doesn't overly matter. It's a really nice way to wake up the lumbar spine. We've released the shoulders so they're moving very easily now. Keeping it going a little bit longer. We can go into all kinds of detail about how this movement works, but I'm more interested in just enjoy that feeling of turning. Everything moving freely. And then gradually allowing that movement to reduce back. Smaller and smaller. Coming back into Wuji. And then when the bodies stop moving, take a few breaths to see how that feels. Okay, we're then going to start to shift the weight around the bottom of the feet. So circling the whole body, but noticing it on the bottom of the feet. This helps us to relax the bottom of the feet. It's a great technique for getting your awareness as far from the head as possible. Is shift the weight around the feet. Allow the feet to soften, allow them to relax. And we can notice that the ankles are moving. We can notice the softness in the knees. We can notice the space in the hips. So the whole of the legs are supporting this movement. The whole body relaxing. And then coming back to a central place, and again, take a moment in Wuji, take a moment in standing. And then raising the hands, pushing down on the out-breath, connecting down into the earth. Lifting up on the in-breath, gathering into lower dante. Expanding out, gather back. Out. And back. Out. And back. Pausing at lower dantian. And then lifting chi up through the whole of the spine, through the space between the vertebrae, all the way up into blue sky, and then draw chi down through all that space you've created, down into lower dantian. So rising up, creating space, relaxing, gathering back, drawing blue sky back inside. Once more, connecting up and gathering back, back into lower dantian, again pausing at lower dantian. And then opening the elbows, opening the wrists, expanding out in all directions, relaxing out, gathering back. Relax out, gather back. Relax out. And gather back. And this time, notice the space inside. The space between thoughts. We can notice how well everything is working, how balanced, how quiet. And then gently expand the awareness out into the space immediately around yourself, out into the chi body, beyond the physical body, a larger area. Then we can expand the awareness out further and notice all of us connected. Everyone practicing together, everyone supported. Everyone's supporting this chi field, this connection. Taking a moment to enjoy that connection. And then expanding the awareness out again, out into Hunyuan Chi, out into blue sky, where everything is supported. Everything is connected. And anything is possible. And then draw that potential, draw that blue sky back inside. Back into lower dantian, back into the center of the abdomen. And here we'll take a little bit of time just looking at the spine and this idea of everything flowing freely in the spine open and relaxed. So in order to do that, relax the hands to the sides. And we'll start with a very gentle movement called crane's neck. So the chin pushes out, draws down, and gathers in towards the neck. Draws up close to the throat, and it continues its journey up into the blue sky, pushes out and sinks down. I'll turn sideways so you can see this. Draws in, pushes up, out, and down. So gently circling the chin. But as you're doing this, you're mobilizing the neck. You're opening up the space in the neck. It's like waves of movement traveling up through the spine. And then gradually we're going to increase the size of this movement. So this may be just an idea, it may be an actual physical increase, but each time the chin draws down, it draws down a little further. Each time it draws up from a little further down. And when this is working, the chin draws down further, and as it does, the shoulder blades open. And as the chin draws up, the shoulder blades naturally squeeze together. Deeper and deeper, down into the mid-spine. Mobilizing the spine. The further down the chin goes, the deeper the body bows. Then the movement travels further up the spine. So we're gradually turning this into something that's more reminiscent of Renmai Dumai, or the bow body practices. Just enjoying that movement traveling through the spine, chin drawing down further and further each time. And then as it draws up, noticing the spine all the way up. So as it gets further and further down, we can actually start that ripple of motion from almost from the knees. We can let the knees go forwards and let the spine open up. And on any given day, this is going to be different. Some days you do this and it's just a completely flowing wave of movement traveling up. Other times it's less fluid. It's a less fluid day for me today. And that's good. We need less fluid days so we can see what to work with. A few more times around. Okay, so the next time the hands come up, allow them to pause at the top and the whole body is swaying gently. Like a reed in the river. The front opening and the back opening. And then we'll gently draw chi down, draw the hands down. Coming down, bringing focus into the neck, and we pause with the hands at the neck. And here we imagine expanding the hands out, opening up all the space in the neck, releasing it out, drawing blue sky back inside. Expand out, create space, draw chi back. And then gradually working down the spine, opening out a little bit further down, gathering back, maybe into the space between the collarbones, that type of area, expanding out, gathering back. Each place we expand, we create a little bit more space, just beneath the collarbones, expanding out, gathering back, working down in the mid-spine. And continue working down through the mid-spine. Probably about the same level as the sternum now, the breastbone coming in about here. And then continuing to work down gently towards lower dantian. Each time you open, a little bit more of the spine opens. Each time you draw chi back, you just reinforce a little bit more space. Opening, gathering back in, further down, further down. And when you get to the lower dantian, notice that point just in front of the small of the back. Then you can imagine connecting further down into the lower part of the spine and possibly all the way down into the tailbone. So the whole of the spine open. We can come down into the hips and imagine expanding out into the hips, gathering chi back into the hips. Shifting the awareness down through the legs, down towards the knees. And again, expanding out at the knees, gathering chi back. There's no need to bend down unless that helps the mind focus into the knees. Drawing awareness down through the lower legs towards the ankles. Take a little while in the ankles before moving into the rest of the feet. Expanding out and gathering back. A few more times. Working down to Yongquan, bubbling spring, balls of the feet. So we work down through the entire body. So the next time the hands draw closer together, allow them to connect down into Hunyuan Qi and lift Qi up. Draw Qi down like a Qi shower, down through the whole of the body, Qi flowing well, moving fairly quickly down, connecting down through the legs, down into the earth, lift Qi up. Draw Qi. Qi flowing well. No specific route. Lift Qi up. Draw Qi down. A couple more times. And then the next time the hands get to the top, allow them to pause at the top and allow the body to move freely. Again, open front and open back. Okay, I am going to draw my feet slightly closer together for this, but feel free to keep the feet slightly spaced apart. And then we're going to bow the body down, opening each vertebra. We've been through all of the space, so use this to open up the space a little bit more, all the way down, as far as is comfortable, keeping legs straight, relaxing down. And then an idea, and the idea, well, just put the hands behind the legs and gently drawing the forehead closer to the knees, but very gently opening up the spine as you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Releasing the hands forwards Imagine the tailbone lifting up into the blue sky, body hanging down. Taking a little while here to relax the body, open the legs, and then to ease back up, you start by sinking the tailbone down and then straighten the spine from the bottom up, coming back into alignment, hands rising up into the blue sky. And at the top, move the body freely, the whole of the spine aligned well, everything moving well. And then gently draw Qi down. Down to head, into middle dantian, the space in the chest, down into lower dantian, the space in the abdomen. Pausing at lower dantian, palms connecting back towards lower dantian. So having opened up the whole of the spine, relax the hands to the sides, come back into a Wuji stance. Take a moment to just relax. Body effortless, mind fully aware, but quiet. This Wuji space is always here for us. And as we go through practice, we can find more and more ways to access it. It becomes easier and easier to get back here. And then Lachi. So the whole body involved in Lachi this time. So expand the hands out to the sides. Draw them back in front of lower dantian. I'm going to draw my feet slightly closer together. That's my way of working. And then expanding out, open the elbows first, then the wrists, then the arms. Stand up straight. And when you gather back in, draw the elbows in first, then the wrists. Sink the tailbone down. Just squat down ever so slightly, drawing into lower dantian, the small, just in front of the small of the back. Then expanding out, and all of that work in the spine. We're expanding out through the whole of the spine, through the whole of the legs, through the arms, out into blue sky. And then drawing Qi back inside. Enjoying this simple movement. Lachi, stretch Qi. Relaxing out. And gathering back. Relaxing out. And gathering back. Kai is open. Is gather back inside. Holy Qi, expanding out into blue sky and gathering back inside. Couple more times. And gathering back inside, pausing in lower dantian, pausing in this perfect moment, quiet and centered. Relax the hands to the sides. Allow the body to gently sway. Again, take a moment to notice how effortless the body, how quiet the mind. And then to draw the practice to a close, very simply, open the hands and expand them out to the sides, all the way up into blue sky, connecting up into Hunyuan Qi. Gently draw Qi down. Then bright and clear, full of blue sky. Middle dantian, pausing briefly. All functions normal. Everything is healthy and Qi is abundant. Qi is abundant. Then gently draw the hands down to lower dantian. Lower dantian, Qi is abundant, full of blue sky, full of Hunyuan Qi. Relax the hands to the side once more and then expand them out in front. Gather Qi. Draw Qi back. One hand on top of the other, on top of the abdomen. Whole body relaxed and the mind centered in lower dantian. Full of Hunyuan Qi. Full of blue sky, but quiet and relaxed. Anything is possible. But the mind is quiet. Relax the hands. Ease out. Okay, come back into movement. And let's sit down and have a check-in, have a quick chat. Oh, I can see everyone again. Okay. How was that?
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little bit different to other weeks, I think.
Yeah, you seem to be able to tune into, well, what I need, and presumably other people as well.
I feel the same way. It's exactly what my body needed. It feels really like it's been where it should have been.
Yeah.
Journeyed where it needed to go.
Yeah.
My feet feel very
Yeah.
steady.
The thing is that basically everything within Qigong is either standing and observing or moving. So everything is either Wuji or Lachi. And when we play with that, we can realize that we can take the time to actually relax those parts of us that need the space, that we can open up, that we can do all the work for ourselves.
Imagine doing that as a daily practice, that full sort of 15 minutes of that exact practice in that order would be a really good practice. Even without anything else, I mean, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the daily practices, one of the things that happens is, and I'm going to hold my hand up and say I'm guilty of this. When we come to Qigong, we tend to want to know the next bit and the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. But actually, if we take the time to just immerse ourselves in something very simple, we can find great depth and great insight within that piece. As tempting as it is to constantly go and develop and evolve the practice and become better and better, sort of, so that I can complete all of this practice, or I can do an hour and a half of body mind or whatever. As you say, just take some time to do this every day, and you'll find it deeply transformative.
I like the idea of the time to drop into it and to go deeper. The whole concept of that really appeals to me.
Sorry, which piece was that in particular? Just
that whole sequence of being able to repeat that sequence and go into it deeper, and to take the time to really feel what's happening and feel the space in between, as you say, to know what information is going on or not. Yeah.
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll just mention at the end of this that we'll call this session a deep relaxation session, and then you should be able to find it on the YouTube channel, and so you can take it and you can work with that.
Okay.
Very meditative.
Yeah, it is the basis of the Qigong meditation. It's this ability to, well, that Wuji stance is the basis of meditation for me.
Made me feel very light, but in an okay way. I laughed at the end because I thought of that Flake advert. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where she sort of wafted through a field, and it's like I trip over my own feet at the best of times trying to do that. But this movement had me feeling like, oh, I can do that on some level. It's been nice.
Oh, may your dreams make me. I shall never think of you in the same way again, Sherry.
Suggested.
Okay.
Yeah, I must say, you say that, I feel like as though I can do more than I actually can.
Yeah.
But the mind goes to places. The body's not quite there yet. It doesn't seem to matter.
No, I'd say it really doesn't matter at all. It's giving the mind the opportunity to just engage with the movement. One of the things that is, I think when we're on Zoom, it's very easy to actually look at ourselves moving. It's a bit like practicing in front of a mirror on occasions, or you can see yourself just in the top corner or whatever. And it's great just to be able to close your eyes and ignore that image. It doesn't matter. Just enjoy that feeling of flow. And that's the way it should be.
You say it's going to go onto YouTube. Is that under the Parkinson's Care and Support.org heading, or would it be under John Millar, or what would it be under?
This will be under the Parkinson's Care and Support UK YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. And when you bring it up, if you just click on videos, there's lots of people in these green t-shirts on there, so you can spot it quite easily. Okay, I wanted to share a little bit of information about, because I've spoken about the Wuji stance, and I'd like to just share a little bit of an idea about what we mean by Wuji and where it sits within the traditions and the theories. So I think probably the best thing to do is stick this up on the whiteboard. So bear with me a second while I grab the whiteboard. Mainly because I'm not really good at using the Zoom whiteboard. Right, let's see if this works. So there we go. If we do that, then there's no light on it. So the image that we see for Wuji is it's a circle. It's the same image that we see for Enso in the Zen Buddhist practices. And it should be, some people say it should be an imperfect circle. Some people said that it should be a perfect circle. To be honest, if that's the argument you're having, you need to get over it. It's a circle. And there's nothing in the circle. And this is, it gets quite badly represented, or it gets misrepresented as this is void, this is empty. But actually it's not. This is the space that anything can happen in. This is the ultimate potential. So when we talk about Hunyuan Qi, when we talk about expanding into blue sky, we're expanding into ultimate potential. It's not limited in any way. So the next stage on from this is the Taiji, is the yin-yang symbol. That probably doesn't show up too well on the screen at the moment. But the Taiji symbol is a complication of the Wuji. This is where we're actually looking at this ultimate potential and we're going, well, that's high and that's low, that's hot, that's cold, that's male, that's female, you know, all of these yin-yang type of ideas that sit within it. But the thing that's interesting about the Taiji symbol is that it's actually contained within Wuji. So the clue is there. So when we come back into the Wuji stance, what we're looking for is standing in a way that we're fully aware that anything is possible. We're fully aware that, you know, we're just in this amazing moment of awareness and we haven't got to attach to anything. So, and this is the space that astonishing things happen. But as soon as we bring an idea in, it's no longer Wuji. It's now focusing on that idea. So yeah, just a thought for how we can actually play with the idea, how we can play with the practice. So I don't know if that's useful. I've got a slight nod going on there from.
You're emptying, basically.
Sorry, it's just started raining here, and so I'm struggling to hear because it's quite loud on the tent.
So is it basically trying to empty in order to create space for anything to happen? When you say it's
yeah,
thought, immediately if it becomes a thought, it becomes something. I'm trying to understand the concept of it being nothing and being empty as opposed to a thought and something to fill the space. Are we trying to just empty that and allow the space?
Yes, as I say, unfortunately I'm struggling to hear slightly, but yes, I think from what I heard, absolutely. So the mind space that we're looking at within Qigong is represented by Wuji. There's actually another term that gets used. So this is Wuji, but we actually talk about Wu Wei as well. And Wu Wei gets translated as non-action. And so this is the ability for us to actually simply be aware. So when we're in the Qigong state, when we're in this Qi state, it's possible for us to have this, just this open awareness. And in that state, anything is possible. I guess a good example of it from my perspective would be times that I've got injured, times that I've got sort of physical pain going on within my body. So if I've broken bones, if I've done things like this, and I can go into the Qigong state, and in that Qigong state, I don't have a broken bone. I have no sensation of it. It's not something that I'm holding on to. It's not something that I'm focusing my Qi on. Because last week we spoke about this idea of Qi and information. And so when we talk about information, there's information everywhere, and it's what we choose to put our Qi to. It's the information that we choose to put our Qi to that gives it power. The idea here is that when we're in these places, we're not putting our Qi to any information. We're just allowing ourselves to be very centered and very quiet and fully aware. We're not blocking anything out, but we're not feeding anything.
We're stopping the attachment.
And so this is the...
Yeah?
Sorry.
It's like stopping the attachment.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, stopping the attachment.
How does it relate to last week's ideas and give them space? So space is not...
Qi, information and space.
Yeah.
If we look at last week, how much space do I have on here? I haven't got enough space.
Infinite.
Okay, if we take that out. So last week we spoke about Qi, information, and space. My pen is running out, so this isn't a particularly good representation. And what Wuji is closest aligned to is the space. It's the space that enables us to actually recognize when our Qi is going to a certain piece of information. So if I'm standing in a Wuji posture and suddenly I become aware of my left shoulder blade, for example, I can become aware in that Wuji state that my Qi has gone to the information of my left shoulder blade. So I can go, oh, that's what's just happened. I can come back into Wuji, I can come back into space. If my mind has gone off to what I'm going to have for dinner, I can notice that my mind has gone off to what I've had for dinner, and I can come back into space. So it is meditation practice, but it's meditation with movement. And so when we're using the La Qi, the thing to remember is that if the mind wanders off somewhere, don't draw it back from that thing, because that weirdly gives that thing power. You know, it's like whatever you do, don't think of a blue horse. You know, what you need to do is you need to draw back from all directions. And so when we're in the Wuji stance, when we're playing with La Qi, we're always expanding in all directions and gathering back from all directions. Because that means that we're giving nothing greater power than anything else. We're just in a state of awareness.
Is that a time when you want to give something attention? If you do have a problem in your shoulder or in your neck, is it a time to focus that energy there or no?
I'd say that if you've got an area that is uncomfortable, then you've got two options on it. One is to bring focus to it, which can be really useful because that can help you to sort of unpack what that is. But quite often that will lead us into that sort of Tai Chi type space, into that analytical type space. And it can be quite easy to become over analytical about things. So it's recognizing the amount of focus you want to bring to it. A little bit of focus is great, but actually coming back into a centered space is really what we're aiming for. So yeah, notice it happen, notice the mind going off to it, notice what's going on, but then allow yourself to come back fairly quickly. We have an idea here of about the role of emotions. If we look at emotions from a 5-element perspective, there is a massive amount of information that we can look at that. We can read into it, but we can look at it a lot more simply. We can actually say that when we have an emotional response, when we have a thought, when we have a feeling, anything that goes on, we will only have that because there's something behind it that's important to us. There's something there that we're holding on to. We'll only feel upset about something if the thing is something that we consider important. We'll only feel joyful about something if the thing is something that we consider to be important. So whatever sensations we get, whatever emotions we get, whatever thoughts come up, whatever pain comes up, it can be something that helps us to actually bring focus into what's going on beneath that for ourselves. So yeah, if you notice something and the mind goes to it, if it goes to it in order to go, what's behind this? How can I work with this? How can I loosen my grip on it? That's a really powerful thing. But if it goes to it in such a way as going, oh, you know, well, that's that, and that's really important to me, and I don't want to get rid of it, I'm going to hold on to it, that's a less useful thing. So I hope that helped. I hope that sort of...
Yeah, yeah. I think the fact of that space being infinite possibilities is what makes it so wonderful, because anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very easy words.
It's so true, so true.
So yeah.
You put it very
Right.
clean. You explain that well.
Yes.
I got it.
Well, thank you. Right. Well, in that case, I think we should probably draw this session to a close. But I would encourage you, the sequence that we ran through in the session today, I'm going to hold up my hand and say, I've already forgotten it. Has everyone else already forgotten it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I can never remember these. I mean, you do other things and you remember them, but this, vaguely what it was about, but...
I remember.
Okay. There's a couple of simple processes that we went through.
Yeah.
When you relax the body, start either at the top and work the way down, or start at the bottom and work the way up. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what the movement is in order to actually create the space and release the body. But once you've been through the whole body, whether you've gone top to bottom or bottom up, allow the whole body to relax. And then once you've got into that relaxed state, then again, you can come down through the same process. And when we were doing the La Chi, we started at the top of the neck and then worked it down one vertebra at a time, and then gradually work your way down. So notice yourself working through a process through the body, and then allow everything to move. If you miss a bit out, it doesn't matter. Sorry, Rachel, what was that?
So it seems important then to start Wu Ji, go into Lao Chi and come back to Wu Ji. So basically whatever order you do that in, as long as you start in that place and come back to that place, that's kind of the sequence.
I think that there is real strength in that, because the bottom line is that if you want to use this outside of this 1 hour session that we have every week, you need to have techniques that you can apply into everyday life. And that Wu Ji stance, that ability to just come back inside and to be in that space, is the most powerful technique that I could ever share with anybody. So finding that space in the practice to just stand and take a moment. You can find time in daily life to just stand and take a moment. So we're coming back into that same space. So that's why I would emphasize that bit, because that's a bit that we can actually go, stop, take a moment. And then come.
Is it helpful, or does that get in the way?
Sorry?
Sorry, does what?
If you visualize while things are going on, is that helpful, or does that get in the way?
It works differently for different people. I'm not a particularly visual person with the way that I experience things. So I tend to find that visualization causes me to overthink. It causes me to try to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing because it doesn't come naturally. Some people are very sound driven. And so for them, the idea of actually just noticing the sounds around them is going to be a far better thing. It's finding the tools that makes most sense for you in order to find that space. So if visualization is a really useful tool for you, grab it and use it. But it's not something that has ever worked particularly well for me. As I say, I approach things, you know, I'm big into sound, and sensation. Sound and sensation are the things that I focus on.
The sound, the Kai and her really, for me, connected the movement. It really brought it in.
Mm-hmm.
That made a huge difference for me. So I think I'm a little bit the same. You need that to kind of really bring the focus in.
Yeah, and if you want to take that and work with it, then don't worry about the production. It's creating that resonance within the body that opens and that gathers back. It's the intention.
Yeah.
I remember years ago I was studying a Tibetan Buddhist form, and they had a 6-syllable mantra, which was Wung Mame Beme Hung was the version of it. And so we were taught it over the course of this workshop. And I came out of it, and it was in London. I was staying with a friend who was also on the workshop. And I came back, and we were practicing that night, and I was going, Wung Mame Beme Hung, Wung Mame. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm practicing what we did today." And I said, and she said, "No, it went like this." And she did something completely different. And I've got no idea, you know, which one was closer, but we obviously both deeply believed that the sounds that we were making were the right sounds, and they were both deeply effective for us. And so this particular friend, as far as I'm aware, up until a couple of years ago, was still teaching the 6-syllable mantra using sounds that I had never heard. But she's probably there going, "There's a bloke in Suffolk who does it, who just makes it up as he goes along." So it's, yeah, when we're working with these types of sounds, it's about creating the resonance and the space within the body that makes sense for you. So yeah, please feel free. And you can even do them under the breath.
I'm a visual person. I tend to be visual, so that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever images work, grab them, use them, because ultimately it's about the effect it has on you as opposed to the accuracy of the tool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Good.
Allah.
Howla. Absolutely. Should we just take a moment, settle, take a few breaths, and draw to a close? Okay, so just allowing the breath to travel down into lower dantian. Taking a moment to do nothing, to enjoy just being here, being now. And then we gather the hands back into lower dantian. Just make contact with ourselves, come back inside. Release the hands to the sides, and we'll finish with a howler, because I love it. So 1, 2, howler. Oh, one more. Howler. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good week.